G'day there guys, it's your Aussie Hubby Marky, back at it again with another r/legal advice video. Now if you love me like I love you, then you know what to do. Want you to smash that like button like Crocodile Dundee tackles crocodiles. Maybe even chuck an Aussie flag down in the comments. Now with that said, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and get ready for some bloody good legal advice. Now our first post is by user Trimley, titled, New York. Girlfriend is pregnant, I want the baby, she wants to give up for adoption. What does the law say? My girlfriend is 5 months pregnant and we can't seem to be able to agree on what to do with the baby. I absolutely want this child and want to be a father. However, she wants to give the child up for adoption to a couple that she has found. We talk about it all the time, and she always ends up saying, it's ultimately my decision, not yours. And I don't know to what extent that is true. Some background, I'm 20 and have a job, she is 22 and a student. We've been together for 2 years. We live in Buffalo, New York. Is she right that it is her decision and not mine? And if not, how can I ensure that she can't give up the child for adoption behind my back? As your first step, you probably want to register with your state's putative father registry. That will help if the mother tries to keep you off the birth certificate. As the second step, you should contact a family lawyer. The mother will soon find out that giving up the baby for adoption is a lot more complicated than she naively thinks. So, sooner or later, lawyers will get involved. Better be prepared in advance than get surprised by it later. If she really doesn't want the baby, there is a good chance that you could get custody and she would have to pay you child support. But that's a legal problem best navigated with the help of a professional. If you can't afford a lawyer, see if there are any free clinics or try to borrow money. This is a decision that will affect the rest of your life. Don't be penny wise and pound foolish. Fight for your family. Thank you. I'll find the best family lawyer in town and call for an appointment on Monday. I was afraid that she can bypass me in this, but I'll fight for my family as you say. First off, I just want you to know that I do think that it's great that you want to be a father to your own child. That's awesome and fantastic. But from a life advice standpoint, I also want you to think about a few things. Are you prepared for raising this kid by yourself? Your girlfriend has made it clear that she doesn't want this baby. Are you prepared to be a single father? There's a good chance that she'll break up with you if you keep the baby. There's also a good chance that she'll just do the bare minimum required of her by the law, which is just paying child support. I just want you to think about the possibility, and hopefully you already have, and this little lecture is entirely unnecessary. But I do know a handful of men and women who have kept babies their partners didn't want, and were somehow surprised when the unwilling parent ditched them with the kid. Thanks for the life advice. I'm not a delusional person. My relationship with her will be over once the baby is born. She doesn't want this baby, and if I end up with the baby, she'll be gone and I'm fine with that. I don't count on her for anything. I'll do everything I can do to be a good father. My family will also help me. I don't deny that I'm a little freaked out, but if I wasn't, I guess you'd say I'm naive. Please still pursue child support, even if every penny goes into a trust fund or something for when your baby grows up. It's not whether or not you want to feel independent, it's that this baby deserves a fair chance with support from both parents. It's a good point. I'll bring it up when I talk to the lawyer. She might be selling it or working as a surrogate, FYI. Keep that in mind. As dumb as this sounds, there is a high-priced premium on white babies just born for adoption. Oh my god, is that even possible? Selling a baby? Come on over to r/adoption. I am an adoptive parent of 2. Adoption is expensive for a reason. Agencies lure pregnant women by having their adoptive parents pay for living expenses, etc. during pregnancy. Of course, the agencies take a huge chunk too. If she has chosen a family, it is very likely that she is already receiving money. Agencies and adoptive families both know that the placement is not guaranteed until the parents' rights are terminated, by signing after the birth, and the adoptive families do not get the money back regardless of the outcome. Thus the reason most birth mothers are pressured into not changing their minds. Do not sign anything without an attorney. As another poster said, register immediately, like now, for your state's registry. You can probably do this online today. If she leaves you off the birth certificate, The court hearing any adoption case is required to search that registry before any adoption can go through. Good luck, you can do this. And now, girlfriend is pregnant, I want the baby, she wants to give it up for adoption, what does the law say? Update. I guess it's time for me to post an update to this post. I don't have a happy update, however. So much has happened. On the advice of this sub, I went to a lawyer and did all the necessary paperwork. My girlfriend changed her mind a few times between wanting to raise the baby with me and wanting adoption, but in the final weeks of the pregnancy, she told me that I'm not the father at all. I thought she was lying, so I asked to do a test. We went and did one of the pre-birth blood tests, and the result was negative. She was telling the truth. I wasn't the father. I broke up with her then. I was so heartbroken. She had cheated on me and made me think I was going to be a father for months. I was curious about who the father was, though. I asked her, and she told me that it's the man who was going to adopt the child from her. Yes, this man screwed my girlfriend, and now wants to adopt his own baby from my girlfriend with the wife who had no idea. I thought this wife deserves to know, so I went to their house, when he wasn't home, and told his wife everything. She had a complete breakdown in front of me. I felt sad that I caused this, but I imagined it was her husband who cheated on her that really caused it. She called my now ex-girlfriend to get confirmation, and she told her the truth, then called her husband, and that was when I left. Now the baby is born, and I've heard that my ex-girlfriend and the man have moved in together in an apartment and are raising the baby. I guess his wife will divorce him soon. It will take years to recover from this. I want to thank you for your advice and help. It's sad that things turned out this way, and I hope the baby grows up to be a decent person, despite being raised by two cheaters. Alright, and our next post is by Throwaway201602, titled, If a traffic sign hits your car, can you sue the city? Throwaway account here. This Sunday, February 28, 2016, I was northbound on I-90 in Chicago, and a sign fell over and was hanging over the highway and hitting cars. Mine was one. I didn't even see the sign as it came right at about eye level like a knife. I happened to have a dash cam running. See screen caps here from the video. Oof, that doesn't look nice. The white truck probably also got nailed as it had pulled over right past the sign. I took it to an auto repair place, and the cost of the repair is $900, just under my deductible of $1,000. So a few questions. Is this even worth suing the city of Chicago over? I preserved the COE by removing the SD card, and I have the original footage. Is there a place to file a report that would help others whose car might have been damaged? You can sue whoever is in charge of maintaining that road. It may be the city, but I don't want to just assume. Look to the Department of Transportation or Chicago equivalent. I-90 will be a state-maintained road, so the city probably has nothing to do with it. Most states have a court of claims for damage such as this, but there may be limitations. In my state, there has to be a highway employee at the site before the state is liable, and/or the state has to have had notice of the road defect. Also, was the sign hitting cars, or were the cars hitting signs? Don't know the answer to that one, Chief. Edit, not from Illinois, but from a neighboring state. Edit 2, I called the city clerk's office as their domain has been hijacked. They told me to contact IDOT. Edit 3, thanks for the advice, folks. For I-90, you submit a claim with IDOT. The process is that you leave a voice message for them to send you a paper form in the mail. What year is it? And now, update. If a traffic sign hits your car, can you sue the city? Thank you for the great advice offered when I posted to r/LegalAdvice. I took that advice and was successful. I have an update. Warning, this is going to be very long, a year plus of bullcrap denials. Skip to the end for the TLDR. So, accident tore a hole through the roof and nicked the windshield. Repairs were about $1,000, insurance deductible was $1,000. I caught the incident on a dashcam that records speeds, GPS time, GPS position. Contacted IDOT with their little form. IDOT referred me to ISTHA. ISTHA identified the location as under the control of the company. We'll call them JACO. JACO sends a letter saying that it wasn't in their area and that it was in the company CACO's area. I call Keiko, they say nope. I get a call from the local director of Jayco, let's call him POS. Says it wasn't them, and that someone else also had property damage that Keiko is handling, and that the issues and Keiko is the company to contact, not them. I send a letter to ISTA and include a map that identifies time and GPS lat/lon location, along with a note about the phone call. ISTA sends a letter back to Jayco, which states no, it's Jayco's area, and handle this with the insurance party directly, and CC risk management with the details. 6 months go by, nothing. I follow up with a letter and a screenshot of the dashcam video with a mile marker visible, asking for a response. Jayco says, winds were 41 miles per hour that day, not our responsibility. I follow back with this letter showing that the raw data from the NWS stored by the NOAA says that their claim is without merit. No response. So now I'm getting worried about the statute of limitations as we're getting close to 1 year away from the event. I called ISTA and say, what's up? They can't offer advice. I forget exactly how I asked, but it came up that engineering might want to be CC'd on my next letter as they decide who gets bids. I start looking around for lawyers. It turns out that I have to file in Illinois. There are some great resources for lawyers in Illinois, but when the lawyers hear it's for $1,000 in damages, they all say no, that in good conscience they can't take a case that will cost much more in their time costs than I'd get back in damages. Fine, I'll do it myself. So I look at the Illinois Small Claims Court. It allows electronic filing. I know you can lose with incorrect details on the filing, but the state of Illinois provides numbers you can call for people representing themselves in small claims court. I call, I find out. You have to file in the district court in which the accident occurred. You can ask for court fees when you file. Don't put anything much on the complaint other than, this accident occurred at X location at Y time. This is in the district in which I'm filing. Defendant refuses to pay. Therefore, I'm filing for damages plus court fees plus related fees. The classification you have to put down when filing. You can file online and the date of submission is the date when you press submit. It's before 4 PM. I forgot the exact time. I call Jayco and the conversation with POS goes like this. I say, I want to avoid a lawsuit, but I need you to pay for damages and the statute of limitations is coming up. 4 other people had this issue. One was a woman who said a tractor trailer hit the sign. What is her name? Don't know, but she sued the trucking company for $4,000. What's the name of the trucking company? Don't know, but you should be suing them, not us. How did a truck hit the sign? The sign was behind a concrete barrier. Yeah, the truck hit the barrier, bounced off it and damaged the barrier and sign. The dashcam video shows no such evidence. The barriers are all fine and there aren't even skid marks up to them. I might have to take you to court. See you in court. Wasn't even our sign. The sign is from a subcontractor. Name's the subcontractor. So I'm like, what's their number? And he gives me their number. So I call the sign subcontractor. Dead end. I file the lawsuit against Jayco, asking for damages plus costs to file the lawsuit. Choose just regular certified mail. A month or 2 later, and I get a letter from their corporate office. This supposedly local company was actually a subdivision of a much larger company, possibly international, asking to settle and not bring any further claims against this matter in exchange for 100% of what I asked for. I agreed. Call the small claims court and ask about the cancelling of the lawsuit, and the legal advocate there insists, until the check clears, do not cancel the lawsuit. Okay, I get it, but what's the process? Until the check clears, do not cancel the lawsuit. People get caught by this all the time. Okay. I really do understand, but what is the process? Can't do it. Have to go to trial, but you can tell the judge at that time that you asked for dismissal. Check clears a few days before the trial. Call the court, and they say that I have to show up, but if no one shows up, the case is dismissed, and that this is very common. I say it would be a long drive and inconvenient for me to get there. They ask if I can just fax in my request to dismiss the case with settlement details. They say yes and make an attachment, the person I'm talking to and the judge. I send the fax. I called Jaco to let POS know I'm asking the case to be dismissed. He's no longer with the company. PS. Having public resources like GPS, the court system, NOAA is awesome. I couldn't have stood up to a massive company like this without either spending a crapload on lawyers' fees or having taxpayer-paid infrastructure like judicial advocates, freely accessible NOAA data, and a legal system that puts individual claimants on an equal basis with any dishonest company. People may complain about paying taxes, but a well-run government is an indispensable tool for us regular citizens. PPS, always have a dash cam that records GPS date time and location. An $80 investment saved me $1,000. The one I have isn't sold anymore and isn't as good as newer ones, so I'm not identifying it. Righto. Our next post is by Fire and Fury 12, titled, I got visited by some agency and I don't know what to do. Searches and seizures. Oh god. Hi, I'm a lurker on Reddit most of the time, and I didn't plan on getting an account until this absolutely surreal experience a couple of days ago. I live in an apartment building near Atlanta, if that helps. So I was visited by this government agency I'd never heard of called TSA. It's not the airport one since I haven't travelled via plane for years now, and because I don't think TSA officers can visit people's homes. They said they were law enforcement, and that they needed to search my apartment, but I didn't let them in because I've never heard of an agency called the TSA other than the airport one. They showed me a warrant, but I still didn't let them in. Eventually they called for someone, and someone from the FBI came from their office in Atlanta. They showed me their card, and that they were from something called GEMA HS. I don't know what it stands for. They got in contact with the police, which confirmed the warrant, and I allowed them to enter my apartment. They did a search and then left. Am I in trouble because I haven't done anything wrong? I'm a grad student and I can't afford for something to go on my record. I'm still pretty confused as their uniforms had an emblem on it with 3 mountains, and the uniforms what they were wearing did not resemble law enforcement uniforms, but rather they were wearing very professional suits, and I didn't see any weapons on them. Well, TSA is a branch of the Department of Homeland Security, and they do in fact occasionally investigate matters off airport grounds. I am a Georgia criminal defense attorney and am aware of GEMA HS. It is the investigative arm of the Georgia Emergency Management Agency. If I had to hazard a guess, I'd guess that a package arriving at Hartsfield-Jackson and addressed to your location contains something that they are interested in getting to the bottom of. You didn't order contraband from outside the United States, did you? Don't answer that question. Might want to talk to a lawyer just in case. If this is the case and whether you did or didn't order contraband, do not, under any circumstance, sign for a package you are not 100% sure of the shipper/origin. Refuse and return to sender immediately. This is how law enforcement sets up a controlled delivery. Sign for that package and your door will be knocked in shortly thereafter. This scenario makes the most sense of any scenario that I can think of with the information given. Nobody has said it yet, but you should at least start looking for criminal defense attorneys. If I'm remembering similar posts, you can find them through your state bar website. I realize you're very in the dark, but it's best to prepare ahead of time wherever you can. Also, be sure not to talk to police any more than necessary. I want my lawyer is a universal answer to any question, and silence cannot be held against you in court. Thank you for the advice, but which point would an attorney become necessary in your opinion? You've already been visited by some branch of law enforcement. It's time to get a higher power involved. At least get their cards so you can give them a call if you're arrested. Thank you for the information. I've started looking for lawyers now, and I've been told not to tamper with anything, so that's exactly what I'm doing. GEMA HS has a unit involved in school safety, weapons, terrorism. If there is any chance at all that something you wrote or posted or otherwise produced could in any way be perceived or misperceived as a threat to your or some other school, that could be why you got a visit. As Monk Token said, you probably should look around for a consultation with a criminal defense attorney just in case. I'm very active on Twitter, but I haven't said anything threatening. I do criticize politics a lot, so perhaps that's the case. I really have no idea. The cause of the warrant may have not even been something you said or did. A friend could have somehow said or written something. There is no way to know what they were looking for unless they tell you. I've never had anything like this happen to me, but I know if it did, I would want to have the business card of a criminal defense attorney in my wallet/pocket for my one phone call. Hopefully they didn't find whatever they were looking for and will leave you alone. But I'm the suspicious type, and would sleep better after an initial consultation with a lawyer. And now, edit. I contacted the Atlanta Bar Association's attorney referral line as directed to by user Triceratops. They put me in contact with an attorney whom I've spoken to, and he's told me not to speak about the case anymore. We've set up an initial consultation meeting, and I would like to thank everyone who helped me sort this out. I was totally lost in the beginning and had no idea what to do, but you guys gave me guidance and helped me out during my time of need, and for that I am very grateful. And this came out of fucking left center about the carbon monoxide leak. I called the fire department and they said they've already at my apartment assessing the leak. The utility company has also been called and they're sending their own representatives as well. My friend took me to the hospital to get assessed for carbon monoxide poisoning, and I'm currently here and they're performing some tests on me. Thank you once again, guys. Once there's an update and I'm allowed to by my attorneys to speak on the matter, I'll be sure to update you guys. Restaurant owners took 24% of my tip last night. I live in Maryland. I wait tables for $3.63 an hour plus tips. Last night, I was handed an invoice for a party I was working, and at the very bottom, written in pen, the owner's wife/co-owner wrote, "Tips multiplied by 0.78 equals tips for server." That's 22% of my gratuity. On top of that, they've been taking 2% of our gratuity every night to help pay for the credit debit card transactions. The fact that the owners are taking out tip money because they need spending money infuriates me, especially considering we already shared 25% with the support service staff. Duty34 says, restaurant owners are legally allowed to pass along the up to 2% fee the credit companies charge them using the service. It's a fairly common practice. I can't speak on the other 22% though. Edit, do you tip out the support staff separately? Was the 22% used for that purpose? I tip them out separately, 20% to the busser/server assistant and 5% to the bartender. No support staff saw any of the 22% that they took. That's 22% of my gratuity. That's around the right percentages for tax. Are they taking these and paying taxes with them? That's perfectly legitimate. What? Our income tax? Nope. We pay all of that and then owe some at the end of each year. We don't get paychecks, just a pay stub and a slip saying how much we owe in tax every 2 weeks. You'll need to ask them why they removed the 24% then. It's possible that it's legal, possible that it's not, but you need to know why there. I'm planning to talk to them in a couple of hours and ask. Sorry to jump in, are they possibly tipping out the rest of the staff with the money? I have worked places that would do 20% to bus, host and cooks. Granted, it was a fine dining place, but that is legal, so long as it's actually hitting their checks. Also, either way, if money is tight with both jobs, talk to your other gig about commitment on a full-time basis, and I bet you will make the same thing, because screw crappy serving jobs. $20 an hour average or walk away. No, nobody else has seen any of the money. The only tipped employees are servers, bartenders, and server assistants. Bartenders and SAs are tipped out by the server themselves. I've never had any percentage of my tip taken from me like this before. I've been here for 5 years. Since a general manager of 16 years left a few months ago, a general manager that all of us trusted and respected, we no longer have anyone to stand up for us. And now the owners are doing this. Edit. Thanks for all the advice. My plan is now to confront one of the owners about it and make sure to record what's said. Updates to come later. Edit 2. To all those concerned, I actually started work at another job 3 months ago in anticipation of this restaurant going out of business, or me having to quit. Haven't pulled the trigger yet because even with both jobs, money is tight. Being trained to bartend at the new place, and from the looks of it, once I'm done with training, the money from that will sustain me enough that I can quit the restaurant in question. I appreciate your concern. You all have been incredibly helpful. And now, update. Restaurant owners took 22% of my tip last night. So I called the Labour Board today. Turns out it was all legal. The gratuity was an included and required charge. In Maryland, they're allowed to take as much of it as they want in this case, as long as I still make minimum wage, hourly plus tip, which I did. I guess I'll be jumping ship soon anyways. The place is falling apart and the owners can't figure anything out. If any employee in any department left right now, it would be disastrous for the restaurant. I already know that at least 2 other vital employees are planning to quit pretty soon as well, because of how undervalued they are. The owners have zero grasp of the concept of morale and how it affects your business and the loyalty of your employees. I'll be happy to leave this place behind me and watch it crumble shortly thereafter. The new place I started at a few months ago has been a completely different experience for me. I feel overwhelmingly valued, management is committed to supporting their staff, and the business is off the charts. I'm doing well. Thanks all for the support. Alright, and our next post is by user Sammy Supreme, titled, "My old babysitters won't leave me and my child alone. Please forgive me if this doesn't make any sense. I'm kind of enraged at the moment, so my mind is all over the place. My son's old babysitters, who were friends at the time and were trusted, had guardianship over him in case of medical emergencies, while he was in their care while I worked. I stopped working 2 years ago, almost 3, and told them I would no longer need them to watch my child since we were planning to move to a different state anyway, and I ended their guardianship after they tried to keep my son from me, and told him he could live with them forever, and that I never wanted or loved him like they do. Since stopping their guardianship, they followed us around grocery stores, come up and stops us in stores, and tries to force my child to come to them, and when he doesn't, they'll cry and make a scene. Messaged me consistently about when they could have him, kept, and continues posting about how much they miss my child, ask my family members, mainly my sister, if they can see him or how he's doing, or if my family can send them pictures of my son. Even asking them numerous times to stop and just leave us alone, they still continue to do these things. It's getting to the point where I have to avoid certain parts of the county that we live in just to stay away from them. If they see that I'm tagged somewhere on Facebook by a friend, they'll show up, even if it's 30 plus minutes away. So my question is, what can I do at this point? I'm pretty sure this falls under harassment considering I've asked them to stop trying to contact me or my child, but I'm still not 100% sure on what exactly to do. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Located in Maryland. ETA, my son is currently in the process of going to therapy because he's scared that they're going to try to take him away again. There was one point in time that they took him out of the county for a week and wouldn't let me get my child. Since they had guardianship, they told me they were allowed to take him without my consent, and there was nothing I could do about it. When I finally got him back after a week was over, I cut contact and went and filed to end their guardianship. You should look into filing a restraining order, get a consultation and an attorney. Thank you. Is there a specific type of attorney I should look into, or just go to my local district court and ask them? I think they do free legal advice on certain days of the month, but I think they're mainly for child support / custody situations. If you can find a local victims advocate group. In Oregon, I think they're paid by the state or a non-profit. They will have the most information and they can help you get things done quick and help you know all of the options. Thank you for your reply. I'll look into that as well, hoping I can find something like that where I live. I could be wrong, but family court lawyers are familiar with the process. Maybe call one and ask if they handle restraining orders for non-related people. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your reply. I'll be calling first thing Monday morning. Good luck to you. This sounds really aggravating for you and confusing for your child. It is. My child is currently in the process of getting set up with a therapist because he's afraid they're going to take him again. And Victoria American says, explain this guardianship please. Did you give them possession of your child for a period of time, or do you mean you just allowed them to seek treatment for him if something happened while they were babysitting? I'm trying to wrap my head around why they think they're able to show up wherever you go, and make implications that they want to take him. Seems there's more to this than is being written. Otherwise, yeah, get a restraining order. I allowed them to seek treatment for him if something happened while they were babysitting. They were notified that they no longer had guardianship and were given the option to petition it, which they didn't. There's nothing else but what's written. They had become obsessed with my child. When they had him in their care and they were out in public, they would tell everyone that they adopted him. Trust me, I know all of this sounds crazy, which is why I'm so frustrated about all of this. Then this is bordering on criminal harassment, and I'm disturbed that the police don't think that there is a danger of these people kidnapping your child. Somehow along the line, they got the idea, or you gave them the idea, that they were more than just family friends, and they somehow had a right to your kid. You need to return to the police and insist that they take a report on it. I'd also find a lawyer and see if they won't draft a cease and desist. If telling them to leave you alone isn't enough, maybe an official correspondence on a law firm's letterhead might give them cause to think you're serious. When you try to access the police, keep in mind that the 911 operator can function as a gatekeeper. What's your emergency? Is something on fire? Do you need an ambulance? Scrape a body off the road? Etc. There's a big risk the 911 operator will interpret this as, I keep running into people I don't like. Please call the non-emergency line. See if you can make an appointment, print up some talking points, bring in this whole thread if you want, bring a copy of the law, which is found here, the statute.web.pdf. If the police won't meet with you, you can seek access to your local prosecutor's office. A lot of prosecutor officials have special domestic violence divisions that deal with crimes like stalking that occur around child custody issues. You can also see if there's a legal aid clinic that might take your case to help you out. And OP says to the last comment, "Thank you for your reply. Unfortunately, the county I live in, the cops aren't the best. They are more into busting drug dealers and not harassment issues. I don't think I ever gave them the impression that they were more than family friends and had the rights to my kid. But since someone is accusing that there's more to this story, I don't know any more. I just know that I haven't been in contact with them, besides them finding me in public and me asking them to leave them alone for almost 3 years now. And they still continue to bother me about my child, even after cutting ties with them personally and legally, which was ending the guardianship. In my opinion, you should double down. Don't use words like former guardian, use words like potential kidnapper, and then start going up the chain of command. If the chief of police won't do anything, the sheriff and mayor will care, as their political careers depend on this kind of stuff not happening. Thank you for pointing that out. I didn't even think to use terms like that. I really appreciate this." And yeah, there's genuinely so many more amazing comments here, but I know you guys don't like that many comments, and I'll just get into the update now. Update: my old babysitters won't leave me and my child alone. So it's been a while now, but I really wanted to make an update since a lot of people on the original post were concerned. Also, sorry for the crappy format. I usually just comment on posts and don't post a lot, so I'm clueless. Anyway, so I had contacted a lawyer about the potential kidnappers, because that's what they are, not really babysitters. And I found out they lied to me for a year or two about having guardianship of my son. This was explained in the original post, but a brief rundown about it was that they requested guardianship to be able to take him to the hospital for treatment if anything happened in their care. Being young and dumb, I agreed. Apparently, the courts never pushed it through though, because they didn't contact my son's biological father after being told they needed to do that. I didn't know any of this until about a month ago after the lawyer had dug up a bunch of stuff. They lied about having guardianship and held it over my head in order for me to not come pick my son up from their care, and so they could take him out of the county/state without my consent. Anyway, they're currently going through court for potentially trying to kidnap someone else's kid after being paid to watch the second child. Apparently, they filed for emergency custody of the second child after not allowing the mother to come pick up their child. Since it's an ongoing case, I can't give too many details about it, but I'm being called in as a witness for their obsessive behavior and manipulation tactics. They are no longer allowed to contact me, my child, or any of my family members about myself and my child. Jesus, what happened there? Alright, and our next post is by Callior, titled, Seattle, WA. Mentally disabled neighbor has twice followed us to our front door and attempted to enter. What are our options? So on Saturday, as me, husband, 1-year-old daughter, were walking home from an event at the local elementary school, we noticed a man walking back and forth in the middle of an intersection. He saw us and changed direction to follow us. He followed us to our front door and attempted to open the door for several minutes while we called 911. The dispatcher told me a man matching that description had been reporting missing from a home for the mentally disabled on the next street over. I requested an officer come to speak with us, but they never did. I had to call our local police department back to even find out what was going on. On Monday evening, we were playing with our daughter in the front yard and driveway when I noticed the same man shuffling down our street alone again. He heard us in the yard, turned and crossed the street towards our house, and again he went to our front door and attempted to open the door and look into our window. As soon as I saw him turn and head towards our driveway, we grabbed our daughter, told him to leave, and ran inside to call 911. Again, I requested an officer to stop by, but 2 hours later, we hadn't had any contact with an officer. I called the department again and was told he was taken back to his home and that our only option was to lock the doors and keep calling 911 when this happens. I've spoken with our neighbors across the street, directly behind the man's house, and they said he moved in about 2 to 3 months ago, and they've never seen him without an aide. When the police gave me his address, I walked over to talk with his aide. The aide refused to give me any information about the agency he works for, and denied that the man was ever alone that night. When I mentioned that our Ring doorbell had recorded both incidents, he got extremely defensive and closed the door in my face. We don't know anything about this man, or what he is capable of, except that he is mentally disabled in some capacity. This has now been twice in 3 days, and we are afraid to spend time outside, especially me home alone with a little one all day. What are our options here? Is our only option really to just keep calling 911 every time this happens? What if he manages to get into our home? Both incidents have been terrifying, and we are so lost on what we can do about this. Thank you. Call Adult Protective Services and tell them what has happened, especially that your camera footage shows the person alone and not with an aide. This is serious crap all around if this guy is not being properly supervised, and Adult Protective Services will very much investigate and ensure the situation is corrected. Make sure to mention that the aide denied leaving him unsupervised. That could cause him or her license issues. He absolutely denied that the man was ever alone. Once I said I had video evidence that clearly showed him alone, he became very nervous and defensive, claiming the man escapes while he uses the bathroom and that he cannot legally lock the front door because it is a violation of the handicapped man's rights. The second part is true, unless his care plan includes an exception that's hard to get approval for. If he needs line of sight supervision at all times though, then they're going to have to step up his level of support. From experience, people in these agencies have less than stellar training and are paid abysmally, but are constantly reminded that any slip-up could get them in serious trouble for dependent abuse. I'm definitely not excusing or justifying this guy's errors, but I understand why he would be defensive and nervous. Also, between not being able to lock the doors and having really strict guidelines around when restraints can be used, plus sometimes understaffed houses where the clients may be stronger than you, it can be a really tough situation all around. Contact Adult Protective Services in your area and let them know a disabled and possibly defenseless adult has been wandering around unsupervised. They will likely go investigate, and the home aide can't say no to them. If he tries to get into your home again, call 911. Do not take no for an answer from the dispatcher. You may have to do this every time, but sooner or later, those 911 calls will force someone to take action. This may be a situation where adjusting the wording OP uses to describe the incident makes a difference. That the man is perceived as disabled and defenseless might be working against OP in the terms of police response. If OP is politely explaining that a mentally disabled man wandering around the neighborhood is trying to unsuccessfully open her locked front door, that doesn't necessarily sound like an emergency or a high priority call in terms of OP's safety. When making the 911 call, his disability should not come into it. OP doesn't know what his diagnosis is and can't reasonably be expected to speculate about his intentions or his capacity to cause harm. All OP knows is that she's home alone with a baby and an adult male trespasser is trying to force his way into her home, which makes her feel unsafe. This is what she should report when calling 911. Adult male trespasser is attempting to break into the house. Please send help. Here's what happened on Saturday. We obviously didn't know he was disabled at the time, so I simply reported a strange man following my family home and is attempting to get into our house. The dispatcher asked what I meant by attempting to enter, and I said he was trying to open the door, peeking into windows and trying to open the windows. He asked for a description. White male, 60s, wearing black and white Adidas tracksuit. And while I was talking, he cut me off to say a man matching that description had been reported missing earlier by the group home he lives in. When it happened again yesterday, I again just said that a man followed us home and tried to enter on Saturday, and that the same man was trying to enter again. I didn't mention him being mentally disabled. I guess when the call went to our local PD, they could see the incident from Saturday. When I finally got through to speak with the responding officer, he told me that the man was severely mentally disabled, and that all he could do was ask me to lock my doors and call 911 if it happened again. So you called 911 twice to report someone trying to break into your house and nothing happened? First, go down to the police station and file 2 reports, one for each incident. They may give you some BS about waiting too long, but be insistent. You could file a report saying Jesus Christ turned all the water in your swimming pool into wine, and they would have to take it. You want to start a paper trail on this immediately, as the lack of action on this by the authorities indicates it may become a chronic problem. Second, go to your local elected representatives and raise hell. The 911 dispatcher was in no position to determine that the guy trying to break into your house was really some harmless mental patient. He could have been some sort of mental break and thought you were demons sent to torment him. It could have been a completely different person, a burglar, abuser, murderer, etc. Could have just happened to be dressed similarly to that guy. If I were you, I would look into getting a hold of those 911 tapes using your state's version of FOIA, Freedom of Information Act. It sounds like you're already in contact with Adult Protective Services, so you're covered there. Depending on how concerned you are for your safety and the safety of your kid, have a talk with your significant other and make a plan of what to do if the guy makes it into your house. That could involve setting up a safe room, acquiring a firearm, etc. Also consider preventative measures such as security film for the windows, and keep the footage from your security cameras. Alright, now we have Update Seattle WA. Mentally disabled neighbor has twice followed us to our front door and attempted to enter. What are our options? Thank you all so much for your help and suggestions. First, a few things to clear up. We are not trigger-happy people looking to kill our neighbors, contrary to what a few comments and nasty PMs said. My husband has a handgun because he enjoys going shooting and for protection. I am not thrilled, but as long as he is safe about it, it's not worth fighting over. We did not know that the man was mentally disabled until after the first incident. I feel our fear was justified given that a strange man followed us and our toddler home and then tried to open our door and window. I actually have quite a bit of compassion for the elderly and the disabled. I went to the house to speak with the caretaker to figure out how we could all keep this from happening again. I understand his hesitancy to give me any information, but I was trying to help the man rather than get the caretaker fired or have his license taken. On to the update. After posting here, I followed the top suggestion to contact Adult Protective Services and filed a report. After filing the report, APS also referred me to the Complaint Resolution Unit, which deals directly with caretakers and aides under investigation. Because this had happened twice in 3 days, APS moved fast to visit the home and get in contact with the agency running the group home. Note, they kept calling it a group home, but as far as I can tell, the man who followed us is the only resident there. The agency was very apologetic and horrified that these escapes had led to police contact twice. I was told alarms had been installed on all exterior doors, so staff is alerted when he tries to escape. They will be bringing in additional staff as well, to ensure that this man has 2 aides assigned to him at all times. The APS investigator let me know that the man is non-verbal and only understands very simple instructions, so simply asking him to leave our property wouldn't work. She mentioned that he hates being alone and probably latched onto our family because we looked safe. Apparently he also loves dogs, and she thinks that's what caused him to come over the second time. We were in our front yard with our dog. Moving forward, I will be trying to arrange a meeting with the agency to come up with a plan in case this happens again. I'd rather not involve the police if I don't have to, so hopefully they will give me a number to call if he appears at our house again. Ultimately, I'm very glad that this man will be getting the care he deserves and needs. Utah. Sheep farmer trying to have therapy dog put down. Other civil matters. So I work at a residential treatment facility for troubled youth. This morning, a couple knocked on the door, I answered it, and it was a man and a woman accusing our dog of killing one of their sheep. Our dog is always on site for therapeutic reasons, and when it is outside, it is tied to a stake. He is 10 years old with no violent history. They said the old guy next door saw our dog attacking the sheep. I denied everything, and they said, okay, we'll just call the cops. We'll be back. Just now, someone from the city showed up, and said that he could take the dog, but he didn't want it to come to that. But there were multiple witnesses saying they saw the dog attacking the sheep. I asked if this was the only boxer in the county. He said in this area it was. I asked if he obtained this information from usdogcensus.gov. He did not laugh. At this point I was getting heated, so I referred to him to my co-worker, who is the dog's actual owner and the home supervisor's wife. The man told her that if we flat out deny it was our dog, then the witnesses will sign a paper and dispatch will come and take him to be put down. She said that she couldn't confirm or deny, but she does know that he was inside all day today. So he left saying maybe we could work it out with the sheep owners and he would go talk to them. We have not seen the sheep or even know how many were killed. They don't seem to have any proof that it was this dog, only at least one person saw a boxer. Also, is there any potential liability with taking the dog from the home to the facility, claiming he ran away, and then bringing him back claiming it to be a different dog? Do not let that dog outside and do not turn it over to the police unless they have a signed warrant. If your area has an attorney, I would call them immediately. I would also get any co-workers and patients that can testify the dog was at the facility all day and have others write statements to her peaceful nature. If some dude wants to kill a supposedly innocent dog for his dead sheep, make him work for it. Throwing up money blocks is the easiest way to get most people to lay off. The farmer is probably looking for someone to pay for his dead sheep. The problem with paying is that he may come back every month for them to pay for another supposed dead sheep. Do you have any security cameras? If you do, then see if you can prove the dog was either inside or didn't leave the property. The other thing to do would be get a lawyer, ask to see the sheep allegedly killed by the dog, and ask to speak to the so-called witnesses. The best thing that would happen is the witnesses look at the dog and says, "That's not a boxer." I had this happen in my neighborhood. Animal control was not amused with the people that were trying to get the dog put down. Unfortunately, we do not have security cameras. Odd, I know. It's the only program I've ever seen without them, and the owners likes it that way. The dog's owner, my direct boss, is going to see the sheep now. I'll let him know he should talk to witnesses too. Good call. Thank you. I worked in residential treatment for 7 years. The owner is being stupid. Cameras protect everyone. Owners, staff, residents, visitors. Not having them in 2020 is almost willful ignorance at best. I absolutely agree. I know you do. I remember when I worked there. It was simultaneously the best and worst job I've ever had. The big picture was fulfilling, but day-to-day would just grind you down. Very true. I'm in my 7th year too, though I've only been at this particular program for 2. I think the only thing that keeps me doing this is the fulfilling the big picture. It takes a hell of a toll though. And now, update Utah. Sheep farmer trying to have therapy dog put down. So a few weeks ago I posted this. Okay. A few weeks went by, and we didn't hear from the sheep owner again. My boss, the actual owner of the dog, was happy to just let it go, but he was worried that this time was passing because they were preparing some sort of legal action, so he did finally get in touch with them. A few weeks ago, they told us they had checked out the sheep and it was not going to make it. Now they tell us they cannot produce a sheep. Okay, it's been a few weeks, the remains are probably disposed of by now. A few weeks ago they said they had taken pictures of the damage, now they tell us they cannot produce the pics. A few weeks ago they tell us they have an eyewitness, later changed to multiple eyewitnesses. Now we find out it was one guy who reported it from work. He does not work within view of their field. He works at a city dump right next door to our facility and who has a history of verbally abusing our residents, telling them they should be penned in like animals, they're rapists, homos, etc. Anyways, we started pushing the issue and we find out that this guy who works next door to us is in a bad mood one day and just decides he hates our kids more than normal. Maybe he decides they don't deserve a dog. I don't know. At any rate, he calls up a nearby sheep owner and tells them he saw our dog kill a sheep. The couple who own the sheep are so worked up that they don't even go to their field to check it out. They come straight over here and start mouthing off. I tell them our dog never leaves the facility and it can't be our dog. They say they'll be back with police and leave. They then go to their field and find out there is no dead sheep. Instead of owning up to their error, they double down and call the city, perhaps keeping up the act to save face. Police told them they don't have sufficient evidence, so they called animal control. Animal control comes and I tell them they can't prove it was this dog. This dog never leaves the facility. It's always either locked inside or staked outside. The city leaves and we never hear from the couple again, up until we get in touch with them and piece all this together. Our dog is fine and sleeping on a couch right now. And I, for one, am glad that this story had a good ending. Alright, and our next post is by user Herbie Castle, titled, I left some volatile gummy bears on the desk, now my coworker wants to sue me. This is in Michigan. I am originally from Germany and very unsure how the laws work in the United States, so bear with me. Get it, 'cause gummy bears? Last year, I received a job offer to work as an assistant professor in the German language department at a local university in Michigan. I recently finished my PhD and was really excited to fill a research position and possible postdoc position in the specific field that I applied to. Most of my time I give classes in German literature, but additionally, the university would like me to help students with writer's block, so I joined an interdisciplinary workshop. There are at least 4 people connected to this workshop, and we get along fine most of the time. Sadly, there is one elderly woman who made me out as a rival one day. I do not know what provoked her, but there is something about me that makes her mad. Cue the incident. I had an appointment with a student, gave him some tips and instructions, and left my bowl with gummy bears on her desk. Mind you, these gummy bears are sugar-free and volatile. If you eat more than a handful, you are in serious fart troubles, and you will occupy the toilet bowl for the rest of your day. But my coworker ate the whole bowl. First, she excused herself from any commitments, and then she called in sick. The next day she confronted me and blamed me for the whole ordeal, that I deliberately placed those gummy bears and it was all a ploy to humiliate her. According to her, she has already informed HR and her lawyer, and that I will be kicked out of the country in no time. The only thing I can blame myself on is that me and my colleagues giggled at her bowel distress signals. Picture of the culprits. Barren garden? What is this? What even is volatile? I don't understand. What's going on here? Kinda long comment, but I think this is the only one that I need to, talk about. Wise old Silverback. I'm an attorney, but not your attorney. Disclaimer. So here's my thoughts in broad strokes. 1. You are not alright. This is serious. For now it sounds like HR only has her side of the story. It is very important that you give your side both in writing and face-to-face with HR right away. Psychologically, people tend to believe the first facts they hear about a subject, and so far as I can tell from your narrative, HR has not heard yours. Get your side in ASAP. Don't wait or be passive thinking. HR will immediately dismiss her story out of hand. 2. Create a record. Gather all emails, notes, papers, voice messages, etc., and preserve them. Sit down and write up your narrative, your encounters with her, and keep notes going forward. 3. Never meet or speak to her without a third person who is on your side present. Always leave the door open on these occasions. 4. File a complaint against her for harassment with HR. She has defamed you, and this will be a cloud on your professional reputation. Do this ASAP. Don't wait until your record is complete. Do it today and tell HR that you will gather your information and bring it to them later. 5. Don't rely on HR to be fair or effective. They might be great or they might be terrible. Find out who else can help you if HR takes her side. 6. Get her out of your group. Talk to your department head about this. 7. Make friends with the law professors. Defamation is a tort, so look for a torts professor. And last, 8. Meet with a private lawyer in case you need one. Additional note, as a teacher and instructor, when you meet with a student, don't call it a date. That connotates a romantic rendezvous. Romantic relationships between teachers and students is frowned upon in the US. Good luck. Thank you, I've already made an appointment with HR for Monday, and I corrected the inappropriate word usage to a better term. Not everyone knows that artificial sweeteners can cause that kind of digestive issue. You may want to print off an explanation from a reputable website to show HR. They may start with the assumption that you did something to the gummy bears. It should be fairly easy to explain, but you may want to show them some evidence so they don't have to just take your word for it. Alright, and now, minor update on these pesky volatile gummy bears. So we are still in Michigan. I had a fruitful conversation with HR yesterday. My coworker and I had separate interviews yesterday, no blaming, just telling what happened and how our workplace could be improved on in the future. I make it quick. Her side of the story looks like this. Herbie Castle deliberately placed sweets laced with laxatives in the commonly shared office space to make me and other people sick. My side? I forgot my bowl with gummy bears, which I gladly and generously share with everybody in my department, not assuming that anybody would eat the whole bowl of sugar-free gummy bears. That would be an argumento ad common senso, I assume, in legal terms. I even brought an original German gummy bears packet with me to prove that I didn't mean any harm. True story though, my pants had been, were, and have been shat during the last couple of days, and that without any laxative gummy bears. I hope these tenses fit. Hard to believe, but we talked during lunch yesterday, and made up. She is a nice lady, in fact, but had issues with food allergies in the past. And I would love to just close this story with a, we reconciled and everything was fine. But there was another major bit of a wow moment in the room when I learned that both hostile coworker and me have already been put under scrutiny, HR words, by another assistant professor who had also joined in our workshop project. Is this fudging Game of Thrones? I don't know what's going on at the end of this story here. I mean, I'm confused and the story is finished, but I'm glad that they made up. That's amazing. Alright, now our next post is by Live, Lift, Love. Haha, Jim. I haven't seen or heard from my biological father in 21 years, and I received a phone call saying that they need the next of kin to make decisions. Hi everyone. So just a little bit of a background. I'm turning 27 this year, and my biological father has been out of the picture since I was 6. If the man was to stand in front of me right now, I wouldn't even recognize him. I have very vague memories of him. The last that I've heard of him was that he got remarried to someone in Vietnam and had children with her. However, he is residing in the US and have not sponsored her over here, so she's still in Vietnam. So yesterday, I received a phone call from my biological father's cousin. In our culture, I address her as my auntie. Her and her husband are the only people that I know of and keep in touch with on my biological father's side of the family. I'm not aware of any other relatives on his side, or even if I know my parents' grandparents. She called to tell me that my biological father was in the hospital about 2 to 3 hours driving away from me, which I didn't even know he was in the US. His housemate had called 911 because he collapsed due to cardiac arrest, and keeps having seizures. I thought she was calling me to tell me that he was in the hospital and was going to try to coerce me to visit, but it was a lot more than what I imagined. She said that the physician needed the next of kin to make a decision on what to do with his medical concerns. When do they stop resuscitating if needed, and when to pull the plug? I didn't know what to say. This man is a complete stranger to me. It's like me going into some hospital to the ICU, picking some random person and say, I want to pull their plug. This man is someone else's husband and father, but he is not my father. I feel like I can't take this responsibility on myself. My aunt passed on the physician's phone number to me and I called her for more information. She said that he is currently on a ventilator and that they have to keep pushing meds to prevent the seizures. His lungs are failing, and although his brain functions and vitals are stable for now, the constant seizures will continue to affect his brain. I have no personal feelings for this man. I told the physician that if I had to make a decision, it would be based on the diagnosis, prognosis, treatment/cure, quality of life if he survives. This is getting really long. This is the gist for the most part. My questions that I have are, do I have to be the one to make the decision? Would I be responsible for his medical debt? Seriously, what the actual hell? What would you do? Okay. 1. You do not have to make the decision. Simply tell them you aren't interested if you don't want to. 2. No. His estate will take care of it. If he passes and his estate is insufficient for the medical debts, that's it. 3. I would have nothing to do with the situation if I haven't seen this man in so long. Politely decline. Hockey Pup says, if he's actually married, his wife is next of kin, even if she's not in the country at this time. Tell the physicians to contact his out-of-country wife to deal with this, and to leave you alone because you don't want the responsibility and you aren't really closest next of kin anyway. And Aeon Flux says, you are not responsible for making decisions for him if you don't want to be. However, the doctor has a responsibility to ask the next of kin. So it may be easier for the doctor if you are willing to sign a simple document stating that you do not want to be involved. That way the doctor can turn to the next of kin without it looking like they bypassed you. You are not responsible for your parents' debts. The only way you could be responsible is if you co-signed on a loan or something. I don't really know what I would do in your position. Do whatever the right thing is for you. You don't have any responsibility to a parent who made a choice not to be in your life. And now, an update to that last post. So I wanted to thank everyone who commented and replied on the previous post, as it really helped me feel better about the decision to relinquish my rights as his power of attorney. On Sunday, my aunt had called me to let me know when she visited him and asked if he wanted to see his children, and he tried to open his eyes and blinked several times, so she insinuated that that was a yes. To be honest, I only agreed to go because I knew I had to do this for myself, so that I wouldn't live with the possibility of regret that I did or did not see him in his dying days, even though I know I don't owe him anything. It was also an 1.5-hour drive from where I currently live in Louisiana. So when I get to go see my dad, the doctor wanted to speak with me, my aunt and uncle first about what to do and who's going to have the power of attorney. I told them I wanted to withdraw my responsibility, and then the doctor said that I can give it to someone else. I gave my auntie and uncle that option, and they said they were in the same boat as I was and didn't know what to do either. If none of us decides to hold that responsibility, the decision will ultimately go to the state, and it'll be up to them with the next steps of care. I also asked if there would be a financial burden to whoever became his power of attorney. The doctor said she wasn't sure, but she believes that he has Medicare/Medicaid, but anything not covered by them would be the responsibility of the power of attorney. So I finally go in to see him with my aunt and uncle, and he just seems kind of unresponsive. He has very little brain function, and is pretty much the equivalent of a person who has gone through several strokes. My aunt was trying to wake him up to open his eyes, and he slightly fluttered his eyelids. They told me to talk to him, so I asked them if I could have some privacy, because I didn't really know what to say. I kinda just stood there for a second after they left, and just talked about myself. I feel like it was an interview or something. I was just like, hey dad, it's live, lift, love. And he turns his head towards me and opens his eyes a little bigger. But I'm not sure what brain functions is still working. Doctor didn't have an MRI on hand, so they weren't sure what brain functions weren't hypoxic. And I just started talking about myself. I told him I'm turning 27 this year. I've gone to college, have 2 degrees, don't have any kids, have a side business, and am currently living in Louisiana. Then I said something along the lines of, I know it's been 21 years since you've seen or heard from me. And then I started choking up, because I knew what I wanted to say the next, but I had a difficult time saying it. A part of me just wanted to get super angry and say, I turned out okay without you, or maybe because you left I became who I am. You had nothing to do with raising me and the successes I have achieved to this day. Ultimately, I said I forgave him and that I hope he finds peace and happiness in the next life, or whatever it is that he believes in. I saw tears come out of his eyes, so I'm not sure if he heard me and was reacting to it, or just because he has all these tubes in and out of him, and he was having some sort of gag reflex. It was just kind of hard to recognize him because of the majority of his face had something covering it with the ventilating and feeding tubes. I still felt like I was talking to a stranger, but I just hope he knew I was there and that it made him feel better. I don't feel like a weight has been lifted off my shoulder or like a sigh of relief. I'm actually pretty okay with whatever happened, and I know I won't have any regrets in that part of my life. Apparently, he has a group of friends that was also there, and they all looked at me like, oh my god, she looks just like the mum. I got annoyed after we visited, and we all sat together in the waiting room, talking and trying to find out more information, and they just kept telling me I'm his child, I need to do this, and that to force my brother to come see him. I just didn't say anything because I didn't want to be disrespectful. In my head, I really wanted to scream screw you and screw your opinions, because you guys got to know him more than I ever had, and it's not anyone else's fault but his that he chose not to be a part of my life. So don't you dare tell me what I should and should not do. But we found out that they got in touch with the wife in Vietnam, and she's trying to come over here to visit, and she has been given the power of attorney. So he's currently on full code until they can get her a visa/sponsorship over here, which he'll probably pass before that can even happen. Thanks everyone for reading. I know this update is a little long, but I thought it might have been a courteous to those who have taken their time to offer their advice. And our last post is by user Rolling Expat, titled, California, neighbor constantly blocking my wheelchair access ramp. Hello. I've been advised by a friend to come to this forum and ask about potential ways to resolve my issue. So a couple of months ago, I moved into a new house in California. It was specifically designed to accommodate someone who uses a wheelchair, and I absolutely love it. Street access is achieved via a wheelchair ramp located between my and my neighbor's houses. The ramp is necessary, it goes over the gutter, because of a very peculiar gutter and curb combination that's very wheelchair unfriendly, and potentially very dangerous for me to try and conquer by myself. My problem is with my neighbors constantly blocking the wheelchair ramp with their cars. They are a large family that owns 5 cars, and they can only fit 2 of them in their driveway, so the rest stays in the street, which is legal in the area. So far, I've found the ramp blocked at least a dozen times. I've asked them on multiple occasions not to put their cars in front of the ramp, and they've been very apologetic every time, but they also keep doing it. It's especially aggravating when there's nobody home who can move an offending car for me, which means I'm stuck at my house. I find it degrading to be forced to go door to door to try and find someone who will help me down. On 2 occasions, I've also had to call for help, because I was blocked from getting into my house. Is there any way I can ensure that this will never happen again? I would rather avoid conflict with the neighbors, but I feel like they're really trying my patience on this issue. Any advice is appreciated. Contact the city. They can mark out a no parking spot, and then you can have parking enforcement tow if they continue to park there. Thank you, I'll try that. Also, they may be able to mark it as an HP spot. Contacting the landlord, city, and maybe law enforcement in a written, reasonably escalating manner starts accumulating valuable documentation. Photos with time and date stamps should be taken as well. If you were my neighbor, I'd make sure this wasn't an issue, even if I didn't like you for whatever reason. Good luck. I'm afraid contacting the landlord won't be of much help because of a slightly complicated ownership situation. I'm heavily considering buying this house and would have committed by now if it wasn't for this unfortunate issue with the neighbors. I'll definitely try asking the city to paint a no parking zone around the ramp exit. I'd rather avoid involving the police, but I don't think they're giving me much choice. I completely understand that. I'd avoid law enforcement involvement myself as well, and contact them as a last resort. If you own the place, then there are more avenues you could pursue. Honestly, short of that, talk to your neighbors some more and be friendly about it. I don't know your specific situation there, but I hope things get better. And now, update California. Neighbor constantly blocking my wheelchair access ramp. Hello. The person who directed me to this legal help forum mentioned that it's customary to give updates once significant progress is made in a case. So since I'm currently sitting in a car, still a couple hundred miles away from home, this is a good time as any to tell you guys what's been going on. Following your advice, I contacted the authorities to have the area around the ramp marked out as a no parking spot. They weren't able to help me since the street is owned by my neighborhood's homeowners association. Now, my house is one of the few in the area that is not part of that organization, but I decided to contact them anyway. The president turned out to be a wonderful lady who was of immense help to me. She helped resolve the parking situation by designating the area around the ramp as a no parking spot. I felt bad about inconveniencing my neighbors, but the homeowner association agreed to my idea of extending the street parking zone by a few yards on the other side of my neighbor's house. That way they still have somewhere to park their fifth car. She did all of that as a gesture of goodwill without me being a member of their organization, which made me fall in love with the neighborhood even more. Also, I'm really glad that I didn't have to go involve the police. Since my accessibility issue has been resolved, I've decided to pull the trigger and buy the house I live in. I'm currently in the process of finalizing the purchase, which is taking slightly longer than usual due to a complex ownership situation. Still, at this point, my estate agent is assuring me that there should be no more roadblocks, which makes me really happy. Once I'm the owner of the house, I'm planning to join the homeowner association as well. I've also been asked to become their accessibility consultant to help make sure all of their future projects are wheelchair friendly, which is a huge honor to me and makes me confident that this is the right place for me. On top of all of that, I've reached an agreement with a homeowners association and 2 other couples to build a second ramp a little further down the street and split the cost between us. Every party, including the homeowner association, will be covering quarter of the price, and we have a promise that this time a no parking spot will be marked out immediately. The project is set to begin once the purchase of my house is finalized. Thanks once again for all the help. What started out as a nuisance has become a fantastic adventure that reassured me that I've found a place I can truly call home. Found hidden camera in Airbnb, Seattle, Washington. My boyfriend and I are staying at an Airbnb in Seattle. We're basically living in the bottom unit, the basement, and the hosts are directly above us. Everything seemed fine. Last night I went to use the charging cube and cable they had in the kitchen. For some reason it wasn't charging my phone, so I took a closer look at it and saw that it was blinking. We shined a flashlight on the cube and realized it was one of those hidden camera charging cubes. It was in the kitchen but pointed straight at the bathroom, which means it has footage of us undressing, completely naked, and walking into the bathroom to shower. The hosts never informed us about this, and we are really uncomfortable with the fact that it has footage of us without our consent. We contacted Airbnb, but they are not super helpful, and now we are considering calling the police to file a report. Is it legal for us to take the files from the cube? Direct USB connection? You should be beyond uncomfortable, and they didn't tell you because this is illegal. Glad to see you called the police and disregarded the checkout time. Stay on site until they arrive. Hidden cameras aiming at the bathroom is illegal, and Airbnb should, they will as soon as they're done with chatting with their legal team, as I'm sure they are right now, refund you. If you feel unsafe, get out and stay near a public area if the homeowners are still on site. Not an attorney, but this is an arrest-worthy criminal offense, correct? The thing is, the camera is in the kitchen and points towards the bathroom, which is 10 feet away. Unfortunately for us, we decided to undress before entering the bathroom, so of course that will be captured as well. It wouldn't have been an issue if I guess we had closed the bathroom door, but we thought we had privacy. Well, you're certainly entitled to at least a refund. If you're a host and have any type of surveillance device in or around a listing, even if it's not turned on or hooked up, we require that you indicate its presence in your house rules. We also require you to disclose if an active recording is taking place. If a host discloses the device after booking, Airbnb will allow the guest to cancel the reservation and receive a refund. Host cancellation penalties may apply. Additionally, more specifically, we require hosts to disclose all surveillance devices in their listings, and we prohibit any surveillance devices that are in or that observe the interior of certain private spaces, such as bedrooms and bathrooms, regardless of whether they've been disclosed. If this device can observe the interior of the bathroom with the door open, then I think this host messed up pretty badly. Keep us posted if you need anything else. You should immediately call the police and let them take care of the evidence. Too many criminal investigations are compromised because bystanders mucked up with the evidence, making it impossible for the police to prove their case in court. Should we bring it to the police or have the police come directly to us? The hosts are living right above us, and I am scared they will get confrontational once they see a cop car. Do not touch the evidence. Just call the police and let them see it as it is. Connecting a USB cable to it, moving it, any other sort of tampering may render the evidence worthless in court. If you are too scared to call the cops, do not call the cops and just cover the camera when you are indoors. Of course, there may be other cameras that you did not find yet. Fun stuff, right? But at the end of the day, you have to pick a course of action. Which of them you pick is entirely up to you. Myself, I would call the police and prepare to move as soon as possible. Even if the camera is removed, do you really want to be near those people anymore? Okay, and there's a few updates in the post. Update 1, we called the police non-emergency line. They won't give us an ETA or when they are coming, but we have to wait for them. We only have 2.5 hours left until we have to check out, so I guess we will sit tight until then. Update 2, the couple left and went somewhere while we waited for the police. The police eventually did show up, made a report, took the camera as evidence, and tried to get a hold of the couple but couldn't. All my messages between myself and the host were wiped from the Airbnb app. I did not screenshot them, but we have copies of what the host said in my email. We are going to Mount Rainier for the next 2 days, so I will keep you guys posted after. Update 3, Airbnb messages are back and I have full access now. We'll screenshot and keep safe. Thanks for all the advice and support. I'm just glad the police came and took care of it from there. We'll look into lawyers once I'm back. Entering Mount Rainier now, we'll update later. Update 4, the host has contacted me and apologized, stating they did not know it had a camera and that some of the other guests had left it behind. They seemed a little upset and offended we would accuse them of such things. I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt and hope that what he said was true. Airbnb refunded me the entire stay without me even asking, and have temporarily suspended the host. They are starting their investigation and will communicate with the police. The police are still trying to see if they can get data off the device and are still doing their investigation. So that's where I'm at. It'll probably be a while before anything happens, so I will make a separate update post when everything is settled. Thanks for the support, everyone. It's been pretty terrifying, and now I'm paranoid at every place I stay, but I'm trying the best to just think of it as an isolated incident. And now, update. Found hidden camera in Airbnb, Seattle, Washington. I had been in contact with Seattle police since the incident, and after 6 months of waiting, they have finally been able to look at the device. They were able to access the footage on there, which they say included not only myself and my partner, but multiple other guests prior to our stay. We were not the only ones undressing and going in and out of the restroom in plain view. They are in the process of trying to figure out the original owner, and also see if they can identify the other people in the videos to let them know. The good news is that the device recorded directly onto a memory card and was not uploaded to anywhere else. So for us and the few others who were recently captured, our footage rests in the hands of the police. However, there could have been others before us that have already been viewed and removed. I am unsure of how to proceed, and am just waiting for the police to finish their investigation to determine intent before I consult further with a lawyer. Thank you everyone who had reached out and for the great advice. I'm sorry it took so long for the update, but this is the first time I've had any real feedback from law enforcement. I'll update again once the investigation concludes. And that was a year ago, and I've not heard from them since, so hope that's a good enough update for you guys. Our next post is a little bit of a touchy subject, by user TextDogShoot, titled, "Neighbor's dog killed my goats, I killed it. Now he wants to sue, and this is in Texas." This happened earlier tonight. I was awoken by the sounds of growling and my goats screaming, "Bah!" I went outside with a rifle and spotlight and saw a baby goat being dragged away by what I thought was a coyote. I shot it and it disappeared, so I ran inside to put on a pair of shoes and came back out. I saw that my breeding billy was dead in the pasture and a baby goat dead next to my neighbor's German Shepherd, which was also dead. I took several pictures of everything I thought was relevant, including the section of fencing that the dog dug under. Then put the dog in the back of my truck and took him to the neighbor's house. When I told him what happened, he got very angry, which I understand completely, but I was pretty upset myself, and told me to leave. After I left, I received a call from him telling me he wants $3,000 for shooting his dog. I told him that I understand that he's upset, but if anything, he owes me money. The goats killed were both males, and breeding billies can be worth several thousands of dollars over the course of their lives. The adult goat killed was only 3 years old as well. Anyway, he proceeded to cuss me out, threatened to come over with his shotgun, and then hung up. My question is there a possibility that he could sue me? Can I possibly sue him to recoup the damages? The billy was the best one I've ever seen. Almost all of the nannies he bred would have 2 or 3 goats, which is fairly rare for my herd. I have pictures of the dog's body next to the dead baby goat if that could be used as evidence. Also, should I file it myself in the small claims or should I hire a lawyer? I really am out quite a bit of money and the search for a new billy won't be quick or easy. Thank you for your time. You appear to be immune from a lawsuit for killing the dog, pursuant to Texas Health and Safety Code 822.013, which says, Section 8.22013, dogs or coyotes that attack animals. A dog or coyote that is attacking is about to attack or has recently attacked livestock, domestic animals, or fowls, may be killed by 1. Any person witnessing the attack, or 2. The attacked animal's owner or a person acting on behalf of the owner if the owner or person has knowledge of the attack. B. A person who kills a dog or coyote, as provided by this section, is not liable for damages to the owner, keeper, or person in control of the dog or coyote. You, however, do have a claim against the dog's owner for the value of the lost livestock. What amount could I file a claim for? The amount I could potentially sell all of the billy's offspring? The amount it cost me to buy a new goat? I've also read about the treble damages. I'm not sure what this means though. You would probably just claim the value of the goat, so you can get a replacement. So just the cost of obtaining a new goat. Does the amount I could sell the goat's offspring for come into play at all? No, because you can sell the new goat's offspring too. I won't have any to sell for at least a year. Will that affect anything? Yes, that would be an economic loss. Edit. This is the update I've posted below. I've written a demand letter and tomorrow or Monday I'm going to send it to him via certified mail. Update. Since Reddit doesn't seem to want me to let me edit my posts to add more information, and I can't post more than once every 10 minutes or so, I'll update like this. First off, thanks for the advice everyone. I'm not going to follow all of it though, because frankly, some of it kinda sucks. But thank you nonetheless. I think there's a lot of good advice in this thread that I'll use. Secondly, after posting last night, I ended up going back to sleep. My neighbor sent me an email apologizing for what his dog did and asking if we could put all of this behind us. I replied to the email telling my neighbor that I was happy that he doesn't seem to bear any ill will, but that I'm out quite a bit of money. I told him $4,500, $500 for the baby, $500 for the billy, and $3,500 for the babies the goat might have had in a year, and that I was going to need the dog's shot records. I'm unsure if the dog managed to bite any of my other goats, but I'd like to make sure I'm not going to lose any of them to rabies. I told him he could pay me now, or I could take him to small claims court to get more money, as I honestly feel like I'm kinda lowballing my damages for him. I explained to him my reasoning for asking so much, and ended the email there. He responded telling me to go screw myself for asking that after I killed his dog. I haven't replied to that yet. Would getting a demand letter from a lawyer be a good idea? I'd rather not hire a lawyer to sue, but from what I've read, a demand letter can be fairly cheap to get. Also, could I find the dog's shot records anywhere? I feel like it'd be kind of a long shot though. We're outside city limits, and it's likely that the dog's not registered. In the picture I took, you can see the dog's collar and the neighbor's name on the tags though. I'm not bothered to look for responses to that one, I'm sorry. I'm just gonna read the update. Killed my neighbor's dog. Update. This all happened several months ago, and it did get a bit exciting, so I figured I would update as y'all seem to be keen on those. Short story. I got more than I originally asked for. Long story. Neighbor got drunk and tried to drive his truck through my house. Presumably, he hit a tree instead. Tree law, tree law. Tree fell over onto my roof and destroyed it, as well as quite a few electronics in the room under wherever the tree hit, as it was raining quite hard at the time. Neighbor ended up with a broken leg, rib, and arm. I got home a while after all this happened, and found him still in his truck, so I called an ambulance and sat there to make sure he wasn't going to die or try to do more damage. Anyway, after it was all said and done, his insurance wrote me a very large check for the roof and electronics, and I got a court judgment for nearly what I was asking, $4,500 for the goats and damage to the fence. I'm currently in talks with another lawyer to find out what it will take to get the tree replaced. And the neighbor moved away. Don't know if it's just because he thinks I ruined his life, or if he just sold his house to cover his costs. Frankly, I don't care. I just want him far away from me. Alright, our next post is by user Needlework Reverie, titled MD. Condo Association sent a letter citing inappropriate bylaws to restrict my kid from doing basically anything. My soon-to-be 7-year-old is a good kid who is very energetic and active. I sent her out to play in the courtyard with the other kids while I'm cooking dinner in the evenings to play. She's mostly going around and around on her scooter on the sidewalks, playing on the grass, or sometimes climbing up the spruce trees. She's very respectful to any adult that she comes across, if talkative. The development is pretty evenly split between young diverse families and white boomers who bought in the 70s. They are polite and friendly to me and my husband, but yell at my daughter if we're not around, telling her that she can't scoot around the courtyard, play on the grass, scoot around the parking lots, or climb trees. They want her to go play in the area that is out of sight of the unit, hasn't been mulched in forever, leaving the equipment very high off the ground, overrun by ants and yellow jackets, and has a rope climbing structure so old and worn out that the nylon rope is pretty much gone, leaving the metal cables exposed. I have brought the state of the play area to the attention of various board members in April and May. Nothing has been done. They've cited 2 bylaws which aren't applicable to the situation. One talks about keeping children out of trash rooms, laundry rooms, and storage areas, / not biking through those places. The other bylaw reads as such: no noxious or offensive trade or activity shall be carried on within the project or within any condominium unit situated thereon, nor shall anything be done therein or thereon, which may be or become an annoyance to the neighborhood or the other owners. No nuisances shall be permitted within the condominium project, nor shall any use or practice be permitted which is or becomes a source of annoyance to the members, or which interference with the peaceful use and possession thereof by the members. I took this to mean no gang-related activity, no drug dealing, no durian, and don't cook meth. My downstairs neighbor received a similar letter, and I'm going to ask the parents of the other kids they play with if they've received one too. There is a county noise ordinance in place, but it doesn't go into effect until 10 PM. My kid rides her scooters on the sidewalks and in the parking lot, never indoors. She plays non-destructive games on the grass, and she climbs trees. The only people that are being obnoxious are the seniors. What should I do? Bear in mind, tomorrow is the first day of summer vacation, and she's going to be around much more than she was when school was in session. You can take it to mean whatever you want, but what it says, and what will be enforced, is that anything annoying to the residents will not be permitted. Your child is annoying the residents. That must stop, according to the bylaw you feel is inapplicable. My child is a resident too. She's not a wayward pet. She is a person and has the full rights of one. Isn't her enjoyment just as valuable as someone over the age of 55? This rule is a nuisance and an annoyance to the people of the community, therefore it is null and void. No one cares. No one cares even a teeny tiny bit. They are entitled literally, and you are just entitled in attitude. Your daughter is annoying the residents, and just because you believe that what she's doing shouldn't bother them, doesn't mean that it isn't. You're making a stupid joke, right? I'm not a lawyer, but it sounds like your kid is involved in some dangerous activities, like riding a scooter unsupervised in a parking lot. It sounds like there is a designated area for kids to play, but it's run down, perhaps a better cause for you to fight would be to get the playground redone. The other owners may be concerned about your child being hit and hurt by a car. Parking lots are for cars, not scooters, skates, balls, etc. I say approach the board with your concerns about the playground and your issues with rules. New playground sounds like a win-win. 95% of the time she is riding her scooter, it is on the sidewalks in the courtyard with a helmet. The times she is riding in circles in the parking lot has been under the eyes of another parent with other children. I would love to get the playground fixed up, but it's still not going to change the fact that they will find something else to pick at us about if we don't do something. I guess your only other option would be to supervise your own child, so she stops being a nuisance to your neighbours. That will allow you to find out exactly what your neighbours have an issue with and not rely on the word of a 7-year-old. Scooters do not belong on the sidewalks, even with a helmet. Take her to the park to ride her scooter. The only wheels that belong on a sidewalk, in my opinion, are wheelchairs and baby strollers. Just because I'm not up her butt doesn't mean I'm not supervising her. I also believe that someday she will be an adult, and that means that she needs to take baby steps towards independence. People complain all the time about helicopter parents, but the moment you let your child have a little freedom, they punish you for it. And now, update. MD Condo Association sent a letter citing inappropriate bylaws to restrict my kid from doing basically anything. The board meeting was yesterday. When the floor was open to owner commentary, I raised my hand and told them that we had moved in about 6 months ago and what I liked about the community, before telling them about the letter and what it said. I ended with, when I got this letter, it made me feel like community isn't a welcome place for young families. It turns out that the letter was sent without the full knowledge and consent of the board. In fact, they had no idea it was sent out. The president of the board was livid that I and 6 other families that I know of received this letter and told us that our kids were allowed and encouraged to play on their scooters and bikes on the sidewalk. They don't want the kids to play in the parking lots for their safety. They also ask that kids stay out of plantings and off the grass. Then she referred us to the playground that has several safety concerns and mentions the new layers of wood chips that had been put down at the beginning of summer. I told her that while we appreciate the layer of wood chips, I still had some new safety concerns. The end of the slide is about 2 feet off the ground, and when my 3-year-old goes down, she shoots off the end like a cannon. The nylon covering on the climbing structure has come off, and I'm worried my kid's fingers could get hurt. There's a strange lurid green fungus the size of a hockey puck by the swings. When you poke it, it lets off spores and oozes. They'll have a contractor come out to give an estimate to fix the playground. The person that sent me the letter was counting on us to be intimidated by the official stationery, not to talk to each other, and discouraged by the inconvenient board meetings. I'm especially upset that 6 or 7 families that I know of received this letter, and 4 of them were renters/people of colour. One person is a single man whose nephew visited him for a weekend and brought his bike. I plan on joining the board once I've been here a bit longer and implementing community building events so that people don't feel so alone. I hope you all have a happy and wonderful day. Toronto. Landlord let cleaners into my condo without consent. $1,700 worth of property stolen. So, I just moved from one rental condo to another here in Toronto. I have the original condo until March 31st. Since I had both units for a whole month, I had left some things behind to move more over at my leisure. Earlier this week, my property manager confirmed with me he would be doing his inspection on March 31st, which is tomorrow 4 years ago. I agreed and told him I would go leave the keys at the concierge for him to pick up on the 30th, and that I had a few items there that I was still dealing with. Today is the 30th, and I went to collect the last of my belongings and drop off the keys. They are gone, and there are a bunch of cleaning supplies there. No cleaning has been done. So I call the property manager and ask where my stuff is, and why is there cleaning stuff in the condo? I did not give consent for anybody to enter prior to the 31st. He says he will call the cleaners and call back. He calls back 15 minutes later and says, "There was a scheduling error on the cleaner's part. They accidentally thought your items were garbage and threw them away." Naturally, I lost my crap. He kept putting it on the cleaners, and I insisted that he was at fault for providing access to my condo without consent to a person who stole from me. He facilitated theft in my opinion. Anyway, it is an actual property management company and not just one person. I don't at all trust them to repay me the $1,700 for my stolen items. I sent them a list and he said he would review it with their team tomorrow morning and respond immediately. I'm going to call the tenant board in the morning, and I'm not sure if I should file a police report tonight or wait and see what happens tomorrow. Advice on that would be good, but I'm mostly looking for someone to tell me what I can expect if they don't reimburse me. Do I take them to small claims court? Take the cleaners to small claims? Both? Do I stand a chance on getting the full amount through the process? Thanks for any help. So, I would start by itemizing everything that was lost, its replacement value, and send a polite demand letter to the landlord to pay for the items. I would also send the same letter to the cleaning company. Both have contributed to the fault here, the cleaning company by showing up to the wrong date, and the property management by letting them in. I'm not so sure the LTB would have jurisdiction over this matter. You can call them, or go to the office and speak to a duty counsel who should be able to give you a quick answer. I'm also not sure if the police would do anything. You can try calling anyway, but if both the landlord and cleaners were mistaken, then it's negligence. There was no criminal intent and the police won't care. Your most likely route would be the small claims court, and if your demand letter doesn't work, you can file a claim. Again, I would file against both the cleaners and the landlord because, if you're unsuccessful, they will both be held jointly and severally liable, meaning you can collect from either. I'd suggest getting in touch with Law Help Ontario, who are located at the 47 Shepherd Street East Courthouse, before you start your claim. They should be able to give you 30 minutes of free legal advice. Thank you for taking the time to write this. This is super helpful. I'll have to find out the name of the cleaning company when I talk to the property manager tomorrow, and I will send the same list I sent to the PM. My hopes aren't high for the police doing anything, but I did make contacts just so I can say I did in the future if needed. This is a civil issue, not a criminal issue. Police are the wrong party. I figured as much. The officer that took my report down said they may assist in obtaining security camera footage from my building if they won't give it to me directly. I still think that is a long shot, and she was telling me what I wanted to hear. I'm just trying to not leave any stone unturned. I cannot help but think if your things were worth that much, they were not discarded but taken home by the cleaners. You might find out who they work for and let them know what the situation is. Yeah, same. I checked the dumpsters in the garbage room and none of it was there. There are cameras in the building and garbage room that I'm going to at least attempt to get police to obtain or get building security to give to me. That's probably a long shot though. But as far as items go, there was a $400 USD made-to-measure leather jacket and a brand new in original packaging iPad smart cover. Some other obviously valuable things as well that nobody in their right mind would put in the garbage. No offense, but those items don't sound particularly obviously expensive. A coat and a $40 boxed item? What exactly did they throw away of obvious value? OP didn't answer that question. Do you have any tenant's insurance? If so, they are your first call. If not, go buy it. It's pretty cheap. I do. Will it be less of a headache to try to get money out of the insurance company for stolen property than it will be to pursue the property management company responsible? They have even admitted to me verbally that they allowed the cleaner access. I would provide the property management company a detailed list of the possessions and demand a replacement as per this post. Give them a time deadline for a response. If they don't respond in a timely fashion and replace everything, or provide appropriate monetary compensation, I would then sue them in small claims court, which in Ontario is pretty easy to navigate and covers large dollar amounts. Thanks for the input. I called the insurance company and made a record file with them. I have a $1,000 deductible and would be subject to a rate increase when I renew in November. So, getting the money that way is a non-starter. I gave the detailed list with values to the property manager a few hours ago. They say they will respond in the morning. I'm going to call the tenant board first thing, then the property manager's office second to talk directly to the owner, or as high up as I can get. The property manager has already verbally confirmed to me that he allowed a third-party cleaner, which was never discussed with me. into the condo on a date that was never confirmed with me, and he confirmed that cleaner admitted to discarding my belongings. So if they don't reimburse me in full, I'm taking them to the Smalls Claims Court on principle. Alright, so there's one update here. There's a lot more updates, but we're going to rehash over a lot of points I think that were just made. Update. Police report has been filed. They have to assign a detective to it before anything happens on their end. They told me to follow up tomorrow and indicated they may assist in attaining security footage if necessary. I'm not expecting much out of the police, as it has been indicated by posters here that this is a civil dispute. I contacted the cleaning company to find out what time they were there and get his version of events. He apologized, admitted fault in misunderstanding the schedule, and confirmed that he threw every item down to the garbage chute. Now I am definitely going to try to obtain the elevator security camera footage to see if that is true or not. I filed a T2 form this morning, on the 31st, with the tenant board, indicating an unlawful entry. Explained everything with dates and times. There is a section where you propose recourse, one of which is reimbursement for lost or damaged property. I listed each item as detailed as possible with values. They will schedule a hearing in 3 to 6 weeks. I can cancel this if the property manager settles with me before then. Property manager is having a meeting with their team this morning to discuss my list of stolen property. They are to respond by 12 PM today, 31st, and I told them if I don't hear from him, I'm calling him at 12. Update 2. I got a call back from the PM after their meeting. They discussed with the cleaner and the cleaner concedes it was his fault and is willing to pay. They said he doesn't make a lot of money and asked if I would accept their reduced amount. I told them the number I gave is what it will cost me to replace those items, and I expect the full amount. The cleaning company should have insurance, and I'm not made of money either. The property manager, I assumed, discussed with their legal counsel during the meeting. They are insistent they have zero fault in this situation, as they have a work order with the cleaner for March 31st. I argued that I never agreed for anybody to enter on the 30th, and they facilitated the unlawful entry by handing over the keys. They want to work with me as a middleman to settle with the cleaner. I told them if he agrees to pay in full, that's fine. If not, I'm proceeding with my T2 claim against them with the tenant board, and we will have the hearing. They will discuss with the cleaner again today and let me know. Update. Toronto. Landlord let cleaners into my condo without consent, $1,700 worth of property stolen. This morning, the police called me back to file the police report. The case was sent to 14 Division and has to have a detective assigned to it before they proceed with anything. I'm supposed to call back tomorrow. They indicated they could attain security camera footage from the building if needed. Other than that, I don't expect much, as posters here have indicated this is a civil matter. I then called the property manager around 9 o'clock to get the name of the cleaning company and the time of entry. He didn't know the time, so I called the cleaner myself. He apologized for the confusion, said it was a scheduling mistake, and explained how tenants often leave stuff behind that he has to throw out. I told him the value of my belongings and ran him through the list when he questioned me. I told him to contact the property managers as they were meeting this morning, and I expect between the two of them that I will be reimbursed in full. Then I filled out a T2 form and submitted it to the tenant board. It says the reason for the complaint is unlawful entry by the landlord, and proposed remediation is reimbursement for lost or damaged property. I listed everything in detail and wrote out the whole story. The property manager's team had their meeting with legal counsel this morning. During this time, they contacted the cleaner. The cleaner admitted fault to them and offered to settle. The PM called me around noon to tell me this. The position of the property management company at this point is that they have a work order with the cleaner for March 31st. So they have no fault for their entry on the 30th and are not responsible for my lost items. They said the cleaner doesn't make much money and can only afford to pay a reduced amount. I told them that 1. I expect to be paid back for the full replacement costs of my belongings. 2. As far as I'm concerned, the property manager allowed access without permission to a third party without discussing it with me. They are responsible for the unlawful entry and ensuing theft of property. My issue is not just with the cleaner. He said he would call the cleaner again to see if he would pay for the full amount. From what I can see in the Ontario Landlord and Tenant Act, there is no provision for a landlord to hand the keys over to a third party without discussing with me first. A question I will be asking a lawyer is if the landlord is supposed to be present to physically unlock the condo. As a tenant, it feels like a violation of my privacy and rights to have an unknown person handed the keys to my home without me even knowing about it. I just got a call back from the property manager at about 6 PM. He says the cleaner is offering $600. I tell him there's no chance I'm accepting anything but the full amount. Again, I reiterate that my issue is more with the management company than it is with the cleaner. He tells me that the cleaner will go through insurance and their attorneys will be real tough with me and expect receipts, etc. He says he was trying to do me a favor negotiating with the cleaner as a middleman. I told him he isn't the middleman. His company is at fault and I won't be individually battling the cleaner in small claims. I've already filed the T2 with the tenancy board against the property manager, and we will see what they award for damages from that hearing before any other avenues are pursued. Needless to say, this is now out of my wheelhouse as far as who I should go after for what. I think I'm on the right track going to the tenant board with the property manager and not chasing the third-party contractor I personally had no arrangement with. I will be contacting a lawyer tomorrow to make sure I get this moving in the right direction. Any thoughts or comments on whether I'm doing this right or not is appreciated. Not a lawyer. In my opinion, you're onto the right idea. You have a contract, so to speak, with the PM, not the cleaning company. As such, the PM is responsible to you. They don't get to slough off their contract with you to another party. If they then, after settling with you, want to go after the contractor for the breach of contract, that's on them. Not your contract, not your problem. In my business, it's not uncommon for the other trades to mess up my work. After fixing it, I then charge the company I did the work originally for. If they try and point me to the other trade that messed everything up to collect, it's a simple matter of contract dispute at that point. My dealing is with who I have a contract with and no one else. Keep your interactions along this train of thought, don't let them weasel out. Good job so far. Be sure that when you list what was stolen to be specific and use the brand names of things stolen. If you just put 3 pairs of jeans, an insurance claim will only pay for 3 pairs of the cheapest jeans they can find. However, if you put 3 pairs of Banana Republic relaxed fit jeans, you get the cheapest price they can find for Banana Republic relaxed fit jeans. No, I don't know clothing or if those are a thing, it's just an example. I say this because the payment will likely come from some sort of insurance. Either the property management company or the cleaners. Good luck. Perfunctory, I am not a lawyer. Luckily for me, the majority of the cost is in just a few clothing items that I know the brands and model numbers of, and have digital receipts for as they were bought online. I'll have no trouble proving the values of what was lost. Final update. What's up r/LegalAdvice? I have received some messages from people asking about how this ended, so I'm back with the final update on this thing. You may recall my last 2 threads. This is going to be long, there's a TLDR at the end. After those threads, I felt like I was probably correct in pursuing the landlord, but the comments were a bit of a mixed bag of advice. As I said I would, I sought counsel here in town. I saw a paralegal that was supposedly in this area of law, referred through the Law Society. What an enormous waste of time. After I explained the entire situation to the paralegal and how I didn't know if I should go after the property manager at the tenant board, or the cleaner in small claims court, or both in small claims, the guy basically despondently nodded and said, "Yeah, that's a real tough one. What do you want to do?" It was frustrating that a legal professional in Toronto couldn't give me any better direction than Reddit. I left no wiser than I arrived, and decided to just go through the process with the LTB and feel it out. It didn't feel worth my time or money to seek additional counsel. There was a preliminary hearing at the LTB in April where the property manager and I were each allowed to give our version of events, attempt mediation, and then the board member would determine if the case would go to a formal hearing. After telling my side of things, the property manager didn't dispute any of the events. The board member said that the cleaner was an agent of the landlord and advised the property manager they would be required to pay the damages to me that may be awarded. This was very good to hear, as it finally confirmed I was correct to go after the property manager and not the cleaner. The property manager was cooperative and was pleasant enough to deal with. The board member asked us if we would attempt a settlement. So far, the cleaner had offered $600, the property manager said they would add $400 to that for a total of $1,000. I said I would not take less than the full value of my items listed because I was confident I could prove their value beyond what they were offered at a hearing. No settlement was agreed on. That was unsurprising and made sense to me, even though the property manager was not contesting the events and was likely to be ruled against in a formal hearing. It was in their interest to make me prove the value of my stuff and get an order from the board for that amount. Then they could use the order to sue the cleaner later. If they settled, it could be difficult to get the money from the cleaner. At the end of the preliminary hearing, the board member took a statement of agreed facts to expedite our next hearing, since we didn't disagree on any of it. I'm not going to list any of them, but the gist of it is that they gave their copy of the key to the apartment to a third party without my consent, and they removed my belongings from the apartment. It was very clear that they weren't fighting me on that. The formal public hearing where the board would determine damages was a couple months later. I had receipts, mostly PayPal confirmation emails, for about $1,200 worth of my things that were taken. Then I had $400 worth of stuff where I had pictures of me wearing it with identifying brand markings and stuff showing, with printouts from the websites where it could be purchased to show the monetary value. Then about $200 worth of stuff where all I had was pictures, because they were irreplaceable items that I paid cash for. I had my girlfriend as a witness to what was taken and to confirm brands of clothing items. The full value of the items was over $1,800. I was expecting to be awarded $1,200 at least for the items I could prove exactly how much I paid for, which is why I didn't settle for $1,000 but wasn't confident about the rest of it. Before the hearings for the day started, the board member called out our names and said, "Are you sure you can't settle this one with a mediator this morning? I'm looking at the agreed facts here and..." He looked over at the landlord and kind of shrugged, as if to say the hearing is a formality at this point. Nonetheless, the landlord wouldn't budge on it, so we waited 4 hours until we were called up for our hearing. After we went through all the documents item by item, the property manager was given the floor. He tried to dispute the items that did not have receipts, specifically a pair of jeans worth over $300. Yes, seriously. The board member said that it's not a criminal case, and it's not up to me to prove beyond a reasonable doubt every single item that I listed. Referenced Maldonado vs. MEI, 1980. The burden of proof I had to meet for a civil matter like this was met through what I had provided, as the PM elected not to bring any experts, witnesses, etc. that could argue against the values I had stated, or say the items I was wearing in the pictures did not match the products in the evidence I produced. He had no reason not to believe me. The board member said he did not even want to hear from the witness, because the evidence I produced was substantial and there was no contest from the property manager beyond, "It's not a receipt." The board member ruled in my favor for the full amount that we discussed for each item at the hearing, and I received the order stating such a week or so later in the mail. On my way out of the hearing, I asked the landlord what they were going to do. He said they had no interest in fighting it and would be getting the cleaner to pay for it. A week or so later, I received a check in the mail from the cleaner. This was a few months ago. The check cleared and the matter is resolved. Thanks to everyone that offered their advice and comments in the other threads. Well, I think that's where I'm going to leave today's episode, guys. I know it's 5 minutes shorter than normal, but this was a huge story. And may I say, tomorrow we might just be doing some tree law. So stick around for the next episode of Illegal Advice. It's going to be a good one, guys. Tell me what you thought about this big old saga of a story. I'd love to know what you think about it down in the comments. And as always, this has been Marky. I hope you had a good day, night, sleep, whatever you've been up to, guys, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!